Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette coming in for a landing here on Stay Curious with Marty Winkle over here in command. Marty, we're playing around there today as we're getting our wonderful program here together and our Stay Curious banner at the top. And we have coming in here for a landing at Kennedy Space Center. Pam Melroy is in this window right there as the pilot. Forget who's the commander. I think that's Ashby's the commander, getting ready to land after a mission. And we're going to talk about Pam Melroy today because all three of her missions were in the month of October. And those would be STS 92, 112, and 120. And we talked to one of her friends and one of our friends, Ken Verderami, about one, what kind of person she is, and two, some of the things that Ken, as a colonel in the Air Force like her, did for her to become an astronaut. Ken was a test trainer. And so we got a very interesting program, including a little spy versus spy type of program that both Ken Verderami and Pam Melroy were involved in. So, yeah, getting set up here a little bit, Marty. I think I'm going to set this up. We've been doing a bunch of things today and enjoying the company of 91-year-old Murphy Wardman is in here. Some of you have met Murphy, and that's why we're just a minute or two late. I was saying goodbye to Murphy, who worked at Pad 36, launching those Atlas rockets in the late 50s through the 80s, actually, Murphy did. So we've got a lot of wonderful space treasures around here. Murphy Wardman's one of them. God bless him at age 91. Google his name on our YouTube channel, and you'll see a program or two we did with him. So, Marty, good to have you there today. How are you? What did you do today? Did you see an astronaut today?
Yeah, I went back out in the Space Center and saw Pam Melroy. I'm sorry, I got Pam Melroy on the mind.
We do have Pam Melroy. I caught you, Marty.
How about Wendy Lawrence?
Yeah, Wendy, too short. Wendy Lawrence. That's and why was she too short, Marty? Why is that her nickname?
Well, it looks like the Russians didn't think she can fit into one of their EVA suits, spacesuits.
Right, the Sokol suit was too big for her. She was actually going to be on the Mir space station instead of David Wolf, and she doesn't talk too much about that. Love hearing her talk about the Mir space station. She's up there twice on two different missions, just how cluttered it was, and they never threw anything away, of course. It's like camping. You might need that ball of twine or piece of metal for do something. So, well, let's kick it off here today by reminding y'all it's the end of the month. We are going to have a Galaxy of Giving fundraising month in November for your tax-deductible donations. We've got 500, 250, 500, 250, $500,000 levels. The higher levels, you'll get some special swag. Local people might get a dinner with a local VIP of the space industry. So need to raise some money for our humble nonprofit, just like all the nonprofits out there. So we're aiming to get our share before the year ends. And our beautiful shuttles of the month of October, 75 astronauts are among these. Pam Melroy 3 times. As I grab my cheat sheet over here, we had MacArthur's up there twice. Bill MacArthur, Marty and I met many times. Shannon Lucid on 2 missions. Bill Shepard on 2 missions. And Pam Melroy, her nickname Pambo, on 2 missions there, 92, 112, and 120. So 70 astronauts, 16 of them women of the 12 shuttles launched in the month of October. And get my notes here a little more organized. We were talking to Murphy Wardman, our 91-year-old wonderful guy here a little bit, and he just left the building, so I didn't get everything organized as usual. That one's there. The John Glenn mission there launched on the 29th of the month. That, of course, is a big one. All the people involved with that talked about what a big mission that was. We've recapped that before. Don't know if we will now, in the future. I'm looking for. There's her command of 120 in there. So let me continue on here without that. We've got a happy birthday to go to this wonderful astronaut, Steve Robinson. He's been at the Space Center, Marty, I believe, a time or two. Happy 68th birthday to four-time shuttle flyer and Max Q guitarist Steve Robinson, born October 26, or in his case, Rocktober 26, 1955 in Sacramento, California. Dr. Stephen Kern Robinson has been on 4 shuttle missions, but the coolest thing he might have done is playing lead guitar for the all-astronaut band called Max Q. He also did a couple other cool things, like remove the protruding gap fillers on the belly of STS-114 Discovery, the return to flight. And what did he do with one of those gap fillers, Marty, on the runway here at Kennedy Space Center? Would you tell our Stay Curious watchers?
He gave him to our friend, Terry White.
He gave it to Terry White, and Terry put him in his pocket and then said he thought better of it, that he called them up and NASA people up, and they're in the Smithsonian, he said. The more you know about people, the more you appreciate them when you meet them, Marty. Here he is on the Vomit Comet, making sure he can stay in tune in weightlessness. He rode with space icon John Glenn on STS-95, and he helped deliver the popular viewing spot on the ISS, the cupola. There he is getting ready for of course, a spacewalk. Looks like he's got he does have a lunch pail in his hand there. Maybe one of his childhood lunch pails there from something. Maybe Robinson, his name. Maybe he's on Swiss Family Robinson in space or something like that. He spent 48 days in space, 3 EVAs for a total of 20 hours. Sci-fi lover, creature from the Black Lagoon. T-shirt there, that rocks. He enjoys flying, antique aircraft, swimming, canoeing, hiking, music, art, stereo, photography. And of course, he's an accomplished musician. There he is in the cupola that he plays stand-up bass. He helped deliver the cupola. There he is, STS-130. Plays bass, banjo, mandolin, pedal, steel guitar, and cello. So no stranger to the having a bow in his hand with this cello. That's interesting. So his missions included 85, 95, 114, and his last one, of course, was the 130, the cupola mission. So happy 68th birthday to Dr. Stephen Kern Robinson, lead guitarist for the Max Q band, and we hope that he has many, many more and keeps coming out to the Space Center, though he's not out here in the next quarter of those released. Well, I put a little tease on our Facebook page today, Marty, with these 3 popular in their time artists. What do they all have in common with space in our space shuttles, Marty? Well, you got on the left, Les Paul and Mary Ford. Now, Les Paul invented the electric guitar, if you don't know. He gutted an acoustic guitar and put a pickup, electrified it in it. Marty, I bet people under 40 don't know the middle one. That is, of course, Dale Evans and Roy Rogers, husband and wife, and their popular song, Happy Trails to You. And then you got Elton John there looking rather dressed up as a Rocket Man there. So the hint is the name of the songs, Marty. So tell everybody what I'm driving at.
Well, Mark, I'm assuming you're talking about wake-up calls.
I am, sir. There are the wake-up calls. On this date in space history, October 26th, Les Paul and Mary Ford were quite a sensation, particularly in the early days of television. We remember that, right, Marty? Back in the old days of black and white TV, he was a very excellent guitarist. She was a beautiful songbird, and they just blended well at the right time. And then, of course, Roy Rogers. So their song was "The World is Waiting for Sunrise." Now, wake-up calls on the space shuttle were tradition either picked by Capcom people or astronauts to be played on a certain day, sometimes birthdays, sometimes sentimental days, maybe an anniversary or something like that. But they always had one, which begs to me, do they have them at the ISS? I think I've thought of that before. We'll look into that. Do you know, Marty, if they have a wake-up call every day on the ISS?
No, Mark, I really don't know. Um,
Seems
I don't know.
seems to me like I've been watching NASA Channel on when they've woke them up a time or two, and I don't know. Well, somebody will tell us about that, I'm sure, because we don't know everything, and we're running on the fly here, and we appreciate people correcting the errors that I make. Sometimes I do know what I'm talking about. I just don't say it right. Correct, Marty?
No comment.
Oh, come on, Marty. Defend me a little bit here. Happy Trails to You is STS 58 wake up song in 1993. Dale Evans and Roy Rogers, I still love watching those old movies of them. And his horse Trigger that they stuffed taxidermy style. And of course, the legendary Elton John, Sir Elton John of England, with his classic Rocket Man song that was a big hit in my high school days. That was the wake up song for STS 120 on 2007, and that was celebrating the first EVA of one of the astronauts on 120. I guess that I forgot to write that down. I'm thinking that would be 120, the EVA. Oh, Doug Wheelock. Yeah, Doug Wheels, his first spacewalk. He requested that. So keep you entertained and keep you on your toes and inform you a little bit about these wake-up calls. Were really a cool thing, and I believe Wikipedia might have a whole list of them. Most of the missions that they list, you will see wake-up calls in the Wikipedia entries. I do refer to Wikipedia quite frequently. Very rarely find them in error as I cross-check a lot of my space facts here. Well, let's get into the woman of the day, Mrs. Pam Melroy. Pam, there was my notes on here. Oh, one other thing, Marty, interesting in date and space history today. In 1964, we're going to have Rusty Schweikert in the museum. We're not full bore advertising this for November 16th yet, but he is sort of confirmed. And Rusty Schweikert and Jack Lautzma are going to be here in the morning. These gentlemen are over in their late 80s, and travel's an issue, and all sorts of things are an issue at the last minute. So we do expect Rusty Schweikert here. Marty, in 1964, he spent 8 days in a Gemini spacesuit to evaluate Gemini biomedical recording instruments. 8 days he spent in the suit. While he was in it, he flew several zero-G flight profiles, went through a simulated 4-day Gemini mission, and experienced several centrifuge runs. So I find that is interesting, and I'm going to ask him about that when he comes to the Space Museum here just for an hour on November 16th. Then he will be at the Kennedy Visitors Complex that afternoon for the showing I'm looking for it, the documentary on Skylab done by a husband and wife German team that have become friends of ours and want to do this here. You'll be hearing all about that November 16th event. Well, let's get on to Pam Melroy here. Born in Palo Alto, California, September 17th, 1961. She was an Air Force colonel, and we're going to I talked to Ken Verderami, who knows her very well. You'll see a picture of Ken, and you'll remember some of his programs he's done on here. She is now the 15th Deputy Administrator for NASA. There's that pretty picture of her. And under, of course, Don Nelson in the Joe Biden administration. She was confirmed with a strong bipartisan support as Deputy Administrator. And our good friend Ken Verderami thinks that she could be the next NASA Administrator, depending on the politics back and forth. And he is a good friend of her. She was the pilot on 2 flights, STS-92 in 2000 and STS-112 when was 112? STS 112 in 2002, 2 years apart. And then she trained for 5 years to be mission commander of STS 120 in 2007, becoming the second woman to command a spaceship uh, after Eileen Collins. And when she visited the space station in 2007, it was on Expedition 16, and Peggy Whitson was the commander. So we had two female commanders in space for the first and only time in space history, two different spacecraft being commanded by females. And that was a really cool time. In 2007 is 16 years ago, and still Peggy Whitson's flying, and here Pambo is second in line at NASA, seriously making policy for us. And she comes from a background of Wellesley. It was her undergraduate college there in south of Boston. Then she went to MIT and got a master's degree at Wellesley. She had a dual major in astronomy and physics. I read a interview with her recently on the Wellesley College newsletter, whatever, for better word there, that I've pulled some pretty interesting quotes that this is all her career there that they had on there. Her nickname Pambo comes from the big C transport plane that she flew, the C-135s, with a lot of troops and so forth in there. Ken Verderami knows her well, and she said, she's not a real she's a very friendly, amiable person, not a bossy person. But when you got to command a bunch of people on a big plane, she got the nickname like Rambo, of someone that's going to get it done no matter what. And I'm not sure if that's sort of a behind her back nickname, Marty, or in her face. But we did get to meet her, Marty and I. I'm going to show you a picture of that. We went to Udvar-Hazy 2 summers ago, and she was there on a special event. We'll show a picture of in a minute. Let's see. I want to get a little more of her background. She was in the Federal Aviation Administration in 2011 as the Senior Technical Advisor and Director of Field Operations at the FAA's Office of Commercial Space Transportation. So she's very familiar with what's happening in the new Renaissance. She also, remember, NASA is National Aeronautics and Aviation Administration. So aeronautics, National Aeronautics and Space Administration is what I meant to say. The aeronautics is the A, all right? And that's why our skies are so safe, and everybody's, enjoying all these 5,000 airplanes a day flying around our country. We've made it so safe. And back, I remember, Marty, in the 60s and 70s, you'd have a plane crash 4 or 5 times a year that people would have to go training to get back on those things. Business people I'm talking about. Anyway, we are grateful to her. Let's see a little more what we got going on about her. There she is. When Travis Thompson's white room suit was dedicated there, we went out there and supported him. And they put this on the NASA TV channel out there, that she honored Space Crew Closeout Crew lead there, Travis. So just a warm person. She's giving him a hug there. She was so friendly to everybody. There she is, being confirmed by the Senate, I believe. Yep, Marty, she wore her astronaut pin right there, and a beautiful American flag sun brooch there. But really, really, now what you see is what you get, as Ken Verderami said that, and he's lived in her house, and her husband at the time, they were very familiar with each other for months on end. There she is at Michoud, America's rocket factory, they call it there, where many things are assembled. Right now they're stacking that's where the solid rocket boosters are, something's done with them there, but Michoud is known more for the external tank there. And there's Don Nelson and Pam.
Nelson.
I mean, Bill Nelson, thank you. Don Pinky Nelson flew with him. And then the third in charge is Bob Cabana, 4-time astronaut. So all the top three have been in space, and we like that, as space geeks, because it seems like, things are going to get done, have been getting done, at least on the front of expanding our horizons with private companies on there. So let's see, we've got. Oh, I know what I want. I wanted to use that to talk about this about her. She talks about Melroy is what does she do as deputy administrator? She is responsible for laying out the agency's vision and representing NASA to the executive office of the president, Congress, all the heads and internal or external organizations, of course, performing whatever Bill Nelson wants her to do. But she was asked about leadership, and she said there's just not one type of person who can make a difference and lead. This leadership comes from a person's own individuality, is what Pam Melroy says. Quote, "It took me a long time to figure out that there's not a woman's leadership style or a man's leadership style. What it's really about is being an authentic human being." Pam Melroy goes on to say, quote, "We bring all of ourselves to everything. When people ask me if I had to learn a male leadership style, I say no. I needed to learn a Pam leadership style. I had to be my authentic self and bring my whole person because that's what matters most to people. They need to know who you are," unquote. What do you think about that, Marty? From her there.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
That makes sense to you? Getting a sip there from a local restaurant place. I don't want to advertise because that might blow up our YouTube algorithm there.
It's kind of like that cliche, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Good point, Marty. Exactly right. So I talked to Ken Verderami. Here's let me go this way. Let's go that way. There's Ken. About the time that he was sitting beside her at flight training school in 1991. He was the flight instructor of a group of people that want to fly P-37s, the F-4, the KC-135, and the T-38. And Ken said that, let's see, this was Air Force Test Flight School at Edwards Air Force Base. She was assigned to the C-17 Combined Test Force, served as pilot until her selection in the astronaut program. That's where she got her nickname. I get my aircraft messed up, you all out there. It was a C-17 that was a cargo thing, I believe. Cargo thing. Listen to me. Not an Air Force or any military person here. So here's what Ken had to say about her. He spent a lot of time flying together and working on reports together. Here's Ken. That's how you spell his name, astronaut trainer. He washed out. He admits 6 times as an astronaut. Thinks there was somebody on that final selection committee that had a grudge against him. But they all have a reason for being picked and not. Still, he trained astronauts on every aspect of the shuttle, and he's going to do a program on that for us one day. But check this June 7th program out this year, where Ken talks about the NASA United Aerial Phenomena, Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Group. And I'll just say, Ken, he knows they're out there. All right, he does. But here's what Ken also had to say. We had similar interests. It didn't take long for me to figure out she wanted to be an astronaut just like me. We were assigned to the same groups and spent all of our time together flying. We were the first ones to solo together on a T-38. And that was a big deal, Ken said, for her and Pam. He spent just dozens of months at their house in flight school and so forth. Pam always was easy to get along with, really good pilot to fly with, really intelligent as well. Nothing really fazed her. She never got excited or panicked about stuff. so and what you see is what you get. All right. And as far as her being a leader, Ken Verderami says about Pam Melroy, you need a combination of political savvy and strong technical background. All the pieces fit together for her to be NASA's leader. All right. And so we hope that maybe no matter what next administration takes over, that she does get to play a role in NASA. It really sounds like she needs to be there. And thank you for sharing that stuff, Ken. He had more to share. See this top secret at one time, DARCA space plane well, Pam Melroy and DARPA, one of the agencies that did a lot of black ops and so forth. This is the X-40A. And Ken Verderami was the manager of this project. In fact, Marty, Ken said, I know the picture you're looking at, Mark, is at the museum out there. He goes, I can go, if you give me a screwdriver, a Phillips screwdriver, I can go right to a panel and take it off and show you where we've all signed our names to it and put it on there. And Pam's name's on there. What this is, folks, is a plane, space plane, that they were testing. Then they wanted to put it in the Space Shuttle cargo bay on STS-107. Rick Husband, the commander of 107, the faithful Columbia mission, Rick Husband was involved with Ken Verderami and Pam Melroy on this vehicle. Pam has a lot to do with the cockpit, he said, on this, and they worked together, and it was trying to convince the money people at Washington. Here's a test flight of it, that they were going to, that this was a worthy thing to do. The idea was to take this X-40 up in a shuttle and fly it around the International Space Station, okay, and maybe dock with the space station with its payload bay inside. And eventually it could be a crew rescue potential emergency vehicle, all right? Could only hold maybe 2 or 3 people, but in the payload bay, you could accommodate people that wouldn't have windows to come back. And why didn't this happen? Rick Husband, the pilot 107, was very involved in this, Ken Verderami says. The next step was to take it to space after these test flights where they proved everything. And he said when this thing landed, for all the technical reasons, it was like a Wright brothers moment, Marty, when they pulled this off. But the X-40 was in direct conflict to the F-22 fighter jet. And he said literally on a Friday afternoon, people met about this, and Monday we were told to talk no more about a military Air Force space plane. It was done. So over the weekend, the powers that be, the generals, Congress, the Defense Department, and everybody said, nope, we're going to build the F-22 fighter jet instead and take care of things on the ground, not in space. And, you know, Ken has signed a lot of top secret. He can't talk about stuff, he's told me, but he hinted around this was a war space plane, possibly a defensive, not offensive space plane that we would have in orbit. Now, what came out of this is the X-37 space plane that has flown up to, I think it's flown 4 missions, and the last one has stayed up there for over 2.5 years. And then they brought it back one day. There's not one up there right now, but there's 2 of them parked at one of the orbital processing facilities for the shuttle right beside the vehicle assembly building, just 9 miles away from Marty Winkle and I are sitting here in our studios at the American Space Museum. Well, let's talk about Pam's missions here real quick. Hope you're enjoying this look at a wonderful national treasure, Pam Melroy. Got a couple pictures. Here's STS-92. Let me see if I can find that crew real quick. STS-92 in front of me. I need 120. Got my 120. Forgot to get 92 up here, Marty. Sorry. There it is. The 5th flight of the month. 112 and 92. All right, 92. Wanted to make sure I had all the astronauts right on this. This took up, Pam basically was on 3 pilot and then commander of 3 hard hat missions at the space station that were very important. This one took up the Z truss, they call it, or the backbone of the shuttle on there. And Brian Duffy was her commander, Marty. We've seen Brian Duffy, another great astronaut that us autograph hounds have gotten out there. And Pambo, this was her first pilot training there. And here's the crew in the traditional picture they took. A big crew there. You got Brian Duffy and Pam sitting down there. Koichi Wakata is on the left. That's Leroy Chow on the left. Koichi's on the far right. 2 Japanese flew on this. Peter Wissoff did a couple EVAs. He is center to the right above Duffy. In the center, there's Bill MacArthur. Just a great guy. We love talking to him, don't we, Marty? And Michael Lopez Allegra, who flew 2 shuttle missions, and he's already done 1 Axiom flight, the first Axiom mission to the shuttle on a Crew Dragon, and he's flying another Crew Dragon for Axiom, maybe before the end of the year, certainly by the beginning of next year. So that was that crew, and they have fun. They want to break the tension. They want to have a little bit of levity. So this was the official Fun Crew photo in 2000. The movie Austin Powers was popular, obviously, so they have photoshopped in Austin Powers there in the upper left, and Mini-Me with the little Mini-Me pose there that is popular. So they dressed up there. I see. Look what they did to Bill. I think they superimposed him in and put a patch over his eye, Marty. Bill MacArthur. So Austin Power, a lot of innuendos in that, but everybody getting along with that. And there's the official photo and their gag photo. It was the 100th space mission, was STS-92 in the beginning of our century. They did 4 EVAs to put this gigantic section up there. Well, STS-112 was Pam's second turn in the right-hand seat as the commander. Jeff Ashby was the pilot. Usually you're a pilot twice and a commander. Then you can be eligible to be a commander. Ashby was the commander, I meant to say. But actually, he is the pilot because NASA did not want to say pilot, co-pilot. All right. Someone has to be in charge, so you got a commander. The commander is really the pilot, and the pilot is really the co-pilot. And what does the co-pilot do? They do something right. The next picture after this one is what the co-pilot's job is to do. And while the pilot, the commander, is flying the ship really for the first time just because he can. Everything was automated on the shuttle. It could have landed by itself, no doubt. Every time safely, probably, but same way with humans on board. So you had David Wolf there, Pierre Sellers, Sandy Magnus, and Fedor Yurchkin of Russia on there. And Sandy Magnus, 2 women flying together. That had to be special with Pam as the pilot. Again, they took some human power carts up there to put on the ISS railway. Don't think they're really using those. There were some ideas they had that didn't work out. Peggy, so they, let's see, they had, Whitson was at the space station in 2002, but she wasn't the commander. I also find that interesting. There's the crew up there at what level would that be, Marty? 195-foot level, I guess, where the White Room is. There. See, Jeff Ashby, the pilot, is behind Pam in the middle, and that's Sandy Magnus, and then David Wolf is right beside Pam. And then in the far back, you've got Sellers with David Wolf there in the left. I think that was David Wolf's last flight. Found this picture from Spaceview Park of a launch of the shuttle. And a lot of flame on that from just 8 miles away there, Marty. That was, wish I'd seen one of those. You never saw one from there because you were on the property, right? So,
right.
Yeah. But you just make the outline of it there, and that is what it looked like. in 2002. Atlantis taking off. And here's Atlantis coming in to the home where she'll be home forever. And we've got Jeff Ashby is flying the thing, ready to bring it up just a little bit as Pam, the pilot, co-pilot, hits the button to make the wheels come out and land her there at 200 and some miles an hour on a beautiful day. Now, Marty, the reason why an astronaut has to activate the legs, or the wheels, apparently they're not automated for a good reason. And Marty, have you heard that story? Heard me tell that story about that?
Yes, I have.
Includes John Young. Would you know it to share it?
I think you ought to share it. I
Okay.
know it, but
Well, John Young's looking at the first shuttle, all right, STS-1 in 1981, and he's always asking a lot of questions. And he goes, if we're orbiting up there, how can you assure me that some computer glitch isn't going to make the wheel doors pop open? All right, because if they pop open, we're dead. There was no motors to close and bring up the wheels. They were too heavy, and the motor would have been too heavy. And they actually hand crank them, don't they, Marty? Or lever push them up back in there. And then we've done with Terry White programs where we've seen the nose wheels are pushed in with like broomsticks and broom handles. So a legitimate question Mr. John Young had, if these if they pop open by some computer glitch or me or Bob Crippen hit the wrong button and they pop open, we're dead. No way we can close those. So they did a computer routing in there and made it so only a button has to be pushed by a human being to lower those. So that's the story I heard anyway from a few reliable persons. So I'm sticking to it. And it was so cool that here the two women are greeted by Joanne Morgan on the right. Of course, Sandy Magnus you see, and Pam, the pilot. Joanne Morgan is a NASA legend, is the only woman in the firing room when Apollo 11 was launched on the Saturn V on July 16th, 1969. And there's always a cool picture of her in there circled. But at this point, I think she was the director of human spaceflight. She was in a very high management position for NASA at that time. And that would have been, they landed at 11:44 a.m. So they would have been talking about where we going to lunch, girls. And and we love Joanne Morgan. She's a Titusville native, and she's been on Stay Curious before. We know she vacations in Montana during the summer and comes to her hometown in the winter. So we're looking forward to having Joanne Morgan here in our Stay Curious studios. They're a real legend and talk about breaking the glass ceiling. Everything she did after being an engineer in the firing room there was something a woman never done before, a lot of it. So precious picture there. And finally, Pam Melroy's last mission was STS-120. That was in 2007, launched October 23rd. And she got to command a mission. She probably would have commanded more had we gone on, but she did retire to let other people take that seat. This was Expedition 16 was up there. Very interesting mission. That we got all the astronauts there. Yeah, there's everybody up there around Pam as the commander. Of course, the shuttle astronauts have the red shirts on, and the crew, Expedition 16, is up there with Whitson. Two female commanders on two spaceships. And look at them all around there. Plus they had Nespali is down here, Italian there. Zamka is upside down there. In the middle upside down is Perozinski, a spacewalker. Wheelock is right down here. The other lady, three ladies up there, that's Wilson. And she is an Artemis astronaut, Stephanie Wilson. There is the famous handshake between two commanders of spaceships, Pam Melroy and Peggy Whitson. A truly great moment for equality. in all senses. And there's the three women on the spaceship up there, posing in weightlessness, and they're Superman. We're flying through space positions there. They took the Harmony module up there, which is a big, important center of activity up there. Clayton Anderson is the expedition crew member there on the bottom left, and he returned on STS-120, and Tanny was left up there. And while they were up there, then President George Bush and his wife called STS-120 to talk to Barbara Bush, of course, there, talked to the women commanders and congratulated them. And, of course, our president commended everybody for what they're doing to complete the International Space Station. And this was in 2007, so 16 years later, continuously occupied, coming up here next month for 23 years. And kind of a cool picture to take us out there of celebrating Pam Melroy and her amazing career. And we hope she has an amazing political career leading NASA. We got Doug Forrest watching in LA, Marty. Carlton Bailey, thank you, Carlton, for watching. Bill Whiting. Pam Melroy, we do wish you all the best success in the world, and thank you for leading our wonderful space agency. The only thing that we wish could happen is them double the budget from 26 billion to about 50 billion, and then it had plenty of money for Artemis. Neil 1030 might or might not agree with me. Dave Stang is up in Wuppertal, Germany. Thank you for spelling that, Marty. Wuppertal, Germany, Dave. Good gracious. We can't wait to see some starry tales from you. And I'm sure you're asking the Germans how they love our shuttle, and Pam Melroy there. Cliff Watson, thank you for $13 and some cents. Cliff Watson is in Pomona, Australia, and he is celebrating September by giving money to us on YouTube. He hit that. You can't do it while we go live for some reason, but you go back there and see any show, and you go up to the little three dots. You hit the those three dots. It says $sign and thanks. Now, YouTube does keep a share of this, and we're not going to quabble with them because they're doing us great things by reaching out. So, Cliff Watson, thank you for a financial contribution. The Astronaut Files, good to see you. That's John Borelli, who's been on our show, Marty, up there in New York. And Tom Thumb, 2 thumbs up to you for watching us, okay? Thank you very much. If you know Pam, tell her that we gave her a lot of love today. And if you didn't like the love we gave her, don't tell her anything, okay? So, Marty, thank you for a good job today. Do we have anything to finalize before we...
Nope, we're good, Mark.
All right. Well, thank you, Marty, for a good show today. We love talking about our shuttle astronauts, and one is just going to do great things, we think, in the future. Pam Melroy leading our space agency with Don Nelson and Bill Nelson and Bob Cabana. So tomorrow we're going to look at Future Friday. There was a wonderful Sunday newspaper article in Florida today about how they've transformed all of the pads out there at Cape Canaveral. You can't find a better source at this moment of the companies out there. So I'm going to talk to the writer of that and get his permission to share some of the things that he has in there. Otherwise, I'll just plagiarize it. So, and let them find out. But no, that's pretty common knowledge, and I'm friends with a lot of the news people around here. Anyway, so we're going to have Future Friday tomorrow. We were going to look at all of the pads at Cape Canaveral and what they're going to be up to in the next 5 to 10 years. Until then, I'm Mark Marquette saying we can't wait to see you in our fabulous museum to bridge the space between us.